Hey everybody, welcome to this December issue of Staffing Monthly, where we are keeping the theme going, talking about artificial intelligence, AI, automation, all of this kind of stuff that seemingly took the world by storm as soon as ChatGPT hit mainstream and everyone figured out what AI was, even though it's been brewing for decades. We're all sort of just trying to figure out, is this going to take my job? What do I do with it? How do I leverage it? We don't really quite know what it is, how to best leverage it. We're sort of navigating it, doing our best to figure this out as we go. And I had the distinct pleasure to listen to an episode of one of my favorite podcasts, The Staffing Show, where Corey Grissom, who is the head of business development for Opus Match, actually discussed his perspective on it and what Opus Match is doing, kind of their approach to it. It's actually a great episode 95 over at The Staffing Show. I recommend you go check it out there as well. But I heard this and I reached out to Corey and I said, man, I got to pick your brain. I want you to tell our audience with Staffing Monthly, about your thoughts on AI matchmaking and how, you're pairing up candidates and agencies and stuff. And he graciously agreed. So I want to welcome you to the show, Corey. It's great to meet you and thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dan. Thanks for having us on.
So I want to dig right into it, man. And as I told you on the front of this is this is an organic conversation. I'm genuinely curious. I haven't quite figured out this AI thing. So why don't, if you can just give me just a brief background on like you and how you ended up in this role and why, being head of BD for an AI company is important. Let's bring us up to that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just to give you kind of a little bit of background on myself, my I guess schooled profession. I went to school initially to be a teacher, turned into being more of an event planner towards the end of my career. Was very into the event planning, kind of food and beverage space for a while. Um, Kind of in the midst of my journey, I got into technology sales. Initially, I was an early business development hire over at Postmates, one of the first
Oh
on
yeah.
the delivery marketplaces, right? Um, During my time over working for Postmates, I actually had the unique opportunity to start working for another disruptive startup out of San Francisco called Winolo. And we were one of the, let's
Yeah.
call it kind of first Ubers for staffing, if you will, where we were taking a large gig marketplace talent pool and then matching them with light industrial and day labor opportunities. So, like I said, we had a lot of success building out that talent marketplace, being able to ship it out to tens of thousands of workers on the platform. Around the time of our Series A, we actually got investment from one of the large MSPs in the United States, AMN Healthcare, who our team was able to partner with to really start to understand what the impacts of the on-demand economy were going to be on healthcare staffing. So, uh, didn't initially know it was going to be AI. Didn't initially know it was going to be really even staffing. We thought we were building out gig marketplaces. But what we realized in our time of working with AMN was there was this super unique thing about the amount of data that AMN had on all their candidates that we could use to match them to the right jobs based on not only what their resumes were telling us, but also their behavior on the platform that we co-developed with AMN for the Nurse Finders platform. We
Yeah.
showed a lot of success while we were at that project. Went to our board wanting to go out and do what I guess what you call digital transformation now, where we would actually go work with traditional agencies to bring them the powers of the on-demand economy. Our board really wasn't into that, so our team left the company in early 2020. Kind of really timed it out with what went on with the pandemic and healthcare staffing to kind of follow in line with that. But to your point, I think the AI world in particular has gotten super exciting since this time last year when Chat GTP kind of went mainstream. It's been super exciting
Yeah.
to see how agencies of all size, whether they're a 2 or 3 man shop or there's some of the largest agencies in the world out there leveraging the technology out there to kind of optimize their internal workforces. So seeing a lot of really cool use cases in the last year, have been able to combine with a lot of other technology providers that are doing some really cool and unique stuff in the space as well. So I think it's not a scary time to be working in staffing. I don't think AI is taking anyone's jobs
Yeah, I
anytime
agree.
soon, but I think it's going to allow a lot of people to do a lot more with their time and efforts that they have put into routinely manual tasks in the past.
Yeah. No, I actually see it the same way. It is exciting. Dude, you said something really interesting. You said that AMN was like the data they had on their candidates presented some interesting opportunities to increase matching. Can you like not in like a big brother way, but
Yeah,
obviously we're supposed to be tracking it. Like, what was that data? Like what were they really tracking that gave them sort of an edge that helped with matchmaking?
no, totally. So, and like I said, it kind of started out from our time, working and building out a talent community ourselves before, but we were doing a lot with our matching engine that we had built at Winolo to match people far more sophisticated than what we needed for, say, light industrial and day labor, where for
Yeah.
the most part, if you can show up on time, maybe pass a drug test, more importantly, show up on time,
Yeah.
you could typically work at those sort of roles, right? And a lot of the components of same day pay and stuff really work out for those sort of roles. Where in healthcare staffing, to match someone to a job, it takes a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Like LPN and an RN are not the same things. It's relevant to where they had their experience, when they had their experience, and pieces like that. And what we learned in our time of working with AMN is, well, one, they owned a lot of things, so it made it easy to
Yeah.
integrate and stuff like that. But what we realized is all agencies of all sides have a pretty robust um, depository, if you will, of data on candidates, but most of it's broken up into a lot of desperate
Yeah.
different silos and systems. So what we learned while we were working at AMN is they had all this great data in their ATS. They had great job data coming in from the VMSs, but the missing piece was that personalization of the data that we were able to do and kind of create algorithms around so that we didn't just know what people were telling us on their resume, but we were also being able to bring in metadata around their search history. If I'm sitting in Florida and my resume says that I'm looking for nursing jobs in Florida, a recruiter is going to call me and offer me a job in Tampa. They're going to offer me a job in Orlando.
Right.
However, if they have some insights that tells them, hey, at 8 o'clock last night, Corey logged in and searched a job in Nashville, a job in Austin, Texas. If I'm a recruiter, I can logically start to place um, some different assumptions on what it is Corey is looking for based on his behavior and not just what's going on with the resume. So what we've created over at Opus and what we created in our past was a really advanced machine learning engine that would learn not only what is a candidate searching for, but how much time are they spending on a certain job compared to another one, so that as we start to suggest them up that next job or a job that looks like the ones that they've applied for, it's more of that Netflix curated experience rather than just sending them an extension of the VMS and, hey, these are the newest jobs that have come in the last 24 hours sort of thing.
That's super interesting, and I love that the example that you gave. If you're looking for nursing jobs, if you're in Florida looking for Florida, you're going to get offered. But if you start looking in Nashville or Austin, Texas, or wherever, like if the recruiter knows that, now that's an advantage to the recruiter because they're expanding their talent pool, which is woefully thin right now. But two, they might be able to access a talent or a resource out there for their client that nobody else is, giving the recruiter a competitive advantage. So I think that's super interesting. And so you built this at Opus. I poked around the website and you got some data claims out there. And I'd like to talk about these a little bit. But the big one that I saw that jumped off the page was 90% reduced acquisition time. Like, what does that mean? How do you measure that? Like, why? Like 90% seems good to me, but like, how is that measured? Like, what does that really mean, reduced acquisition time, and why is 90% a key metric?
Yeah, so for us, this is looking for the time in which it takes us to match the candidate to their first job and that right opportunity, right? So when we started working with some of our early some of our early healthcare clients, we really started to understand their process from top of funnel all the way through retention, right? So
Yeah.
we were able to deploy a product that we refer to as the Opus Match Maestro to allow, like, so a lot more insights into some of the scenarios we were just discussing, so that once a recruiter is actually getting the lead in their lap for the first time, they've already got a lot of insights about the candidate. They've got an idea of where they are in onboarding, so that whenever I'm going and engaging with the candidate, I'm having a lot more meaningful dials, a lot more meaningful conversations. And what we saw is we were able to really reduce the amount of time that it took from a candidate initially coming in pre-Opus. It was taking anywhere from, I believe, somewhere from like 2 to 3 weeks to get them submitted to their first role with
Yeah.
that agency, from the time going through credentialing to the full loop, where we were able to reduce this down to 2 or 3 days. So like I said, a massive time saving. And what we were really focused on was driving a lot of automation and a lot of machine learning in the background, so that it got the candidates that were just looky-loos kind of
Yeah.
sorted out, but your ones that were really engaged, really ready to go to work, we're allowing them to kind of know what those next steps were without the assistance of a recruiter and an account manager to do some manual tasks like document collection. So then once me and you, Dan, are having a meaningful interactive conversation as a recruiter to a candidate, you're ready to go to work. I'm more or less going in and finding out what is the right job for you and getting you submitted versus doing a lot of the legwork on the front end of it. So
That's impressive. I obviously I'm a little familiar with the healthcare space and that typical 2 to 3 week lead time that it takes, which is very expensive, and it results in a lot of candidate like pipeline leakage, candidate basically losing candidates through the process. So when you see that 90% reduced acquisition time, are you seeing, and I don't see the direct correlation with the metrics on your website, but like what kind of increase in placement yield are you seeing with that? Like, because you're losing less candidates in that short period of time.
yeah, so what we're typically seeing is that the average desk size of a recruiter is increasing. So we've seen in some cases upwards to 20-25% more candidates they're able to place throughout
Wow.
the year. Like I said, all kind of relative to coming off of COVID, coming off of some major growth numbers in the healthcare staffing side. But what's been compelling is as the market has started to balance out and kind of bottom out, even at sometimes over the last year, we've still been able to help the agencies that are using our technology maintain around the same average placements without having to reduce staff or having to increase staff during the pandemic. So we're not seeing as much fallout due to that.
Interesting. And are you concentrated primarily in healthcare, or is Opus like opening to like clerical, LI, any of that? Or are you just like staying in your lane?
Yeah, so large focus right now is on healthcare. We are engaged with some different agencies and some different fields, but where we've seen a lot of our success right now is in healthcare and allied. So that's been our centralized focus. But I think as we start to scale out as a company, we've seen that our technology works for light industrial, works for day labor. We feel like, due to what we've learned in healthcare around more than just travel nursing, also doing locum and PRN, that we've got probably a pretty good use case for IT and professional staffing as well. It's just kind of one journey at a time, though.
That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Any like any case studies or like kind of any like anecdotal data that you can share about maybe and I don't know, we'll say a small to mid-market healthcare agency that you've worked with and just kind of implemented Opus, and now like they've leaned out their operation. Like what is like anything you can share on that side?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a really great case study on our website that we did with Host Healthcare out of San Diego. We started working with them very early on as one of our early adopters with our technology, and we really focused on helping them be a lot more effective with their leads, kind of mid funnel, as we discussed. Once they've come in top of funnel, how can we help their internal recruiting team use their recruiter portal that we've helped develop for them to match and deploy better? But then how can we also create a better candidate experience for their clinicians on their platform as well? So we developed out a mobile app as well as a web portal experience for their candidates. So a candidate can do everything from credentialing, onboarding, submitting their time while they're on assignment, and also reaching out to their recruiter all in one place, if you will. Like I said, we showed some really awesome early success with the host healthcare team, where we were able to really partner with their growth and marketing teams to drive some really great adoption of their mobile app. So within about 90 days of kicking that off early last year, we were able to get them to about 10,000 monthly active users across
Wow.
their platform. Uh, Around the time that they were really trying to push a lot of their candidates towards self-service, we were able to help them really streamline that overall process, increase their kind of top line applications that were coming in. And like I said, just overall, just streamline that process. Like I said, it was very much a team effort from their marketing team to drive the adoption and the engagement. But then once the technology has been out there now for a couple of years, they've really been great about removing a lot of the friction points for the candidates. So it's helping the power of the match just streamline their overall candidate experience.
That's amazing. Honestly, like that in such a short period of time. Like it sounds like you really had a ramp up there. So, and is the reason why you're able to do all of this is kind of the way it's built? It seems like it's a pretty open API. It looks like you connect a lot of partners,
Yep.
like Target Recruit, Bullhorn. I see SEM in there, which is a partner of ours. Like, is that why you're able to do all of this stuff? Is because you're integrated
No,
so deeply with them, or how does that work?
you just nailed it. So our core product, our Maestro product, is essentially a co-developed data lake where we're able to go in, work with an agency, and bring in a lot of the robust data of not only their ATS but their entire partnership network, right? So in the case that we're building a mobile app or somebody, we'll actually integrate a lot of the features to their tech stack. So in the case of a host healthcare, we actually worked with SCM and Target Recruit to build out a lot of the back end processes for them. So it didn't go in and just disrupt their entire ecosystem, really
Yeah.
kind of built on top of their technology rather than trying to replace any of it. So then as we were building out their matching and their data and their candidate experience, we were just building up a much more robust data lake of all their data over time. So it powers a lot more of the matching and automation. So we're a lot more of a machine learning company than an AI company. We use a lot of AI in our processes of parsing resumes and stuff like that within building out our code and our process. But our real power of what we do is the machine learning of being able to understand the data over time to then match the candidates at scale.
That's cool. That makes sense. So, kind of one of the last questions I have is like, how there's really two questions. There's this one, the more general question about your view on AI, but um, how does the producer, like, it's one thing I've noticed in this industry is there's a lot of shiny objects, and the decision makers get so excited about all the challenges they face and the solutions that can solve them. And Opus Match is clearly a solution that can solve a major problem in the healthcare staffing industry. And they might say, oh, we're going to implement Opus Match. So tell me kind of concisely, like, what does it take to actually implement and get started using Opus Match? And then what does the daily look like for the producer, like the person, like the recruiter that's actually having to do the work and use the tool to shorten all this? Like, what's the interaction with them and your tool here?
No, it's a great question. So, like I said, from an implementation standpoint, for us to roll out kind of our matching as a service product, it is a concept of us standing up a data lake environment for them. So, it takes around 45 to 90 days for us to start rolling out our first matching test with them. All of our algorithms are a single instance algorithm directly to that agency. We don't share one agency's data with another agency's data, right? So an agency's power, if you will, is driven by how much data that they have. So
Yeah.
the more data that they have, the better matching and the more automation that we can ultimately drive, right? So the day in and day out user on Opus can be kind of a few different users. If we're building out the entire experience from the candidate experience all the way to the recruiter experience, it's going to be a concept of a user being able to access a mobile app while they're on assignment, upload time cards, be able to look for their next jobs, receive guidance around expiring credentials, pieces like that. If it's for the internal agency itself, we understand that this data is super robust and has a lot of value for a lot of different people at the table. So we have a back end view for recruiters to be able to manage and use the match in their daily analog process of I make a phone call to Dan. I've got a really great insights on what's Dan's engagement score over the last 7 days. So I'm spending my time more on people with engagement scores of 8, 9s, and 7s, less on 2s and 3s, a lot more meaningful dials as a recruiter. But I'll also have some of that personal behavior data without it feeling super big brother. So that if I give you a call and you're searching jobs in Nashville or Austin, I can ask you if you're really looking for a job in the Southeast or if you're a big music fan, something like that. So something to help drive the conversation and make it a lot more of an experience where I really think that AI is taking recruiting. This is allowing recruiters to be kind of experience managers versus just being phone callers and order takers that they kind of became during
Yeah.
the pandemic, right? So, but then we also have the concept of an account management view where I can match facilities and jobs to candidates versus candidates to jobs like a recruiter will. And we're in the process of rolling out our kind of back end view for growth and marketing to go in, segment a lot of this data to power a lot of automation back to third parties. So pushing something back to a user journey you already have built out in Sense or Staffing Engine, or that you already have built out in Bullhorn's automation program or something like that. Knowing that a lot of agencies have put a lot of time into their
Yeah.
digital transformation right now. So if we can use the behavioral match to power and optimize a lot of the user journeys they've already built out, that just makes them that much faster and creates that much of a differentiator for them compared to their competitors in the agency world.
That's smart. I like that approach. Last question, just generally speaking, I know AI is still, it's taken the world by storm. Staffing tends to be a little bit of a laggard when it comes to adopting new technology, but I feel like there's a rush to kind of catch up or understand AI. So you're obviously been immersed in this industry for a long time. So ChatGPT was probably not a shocking revelation to you. But if you're a recruiter or a manager or an owner or a leader of a company that might not be very well versed in AI, where would you direct that person to maybe just go get to learn more about it, get brought up to speed, understand it? Or are there any books, podcasts, resources, YouTube videos, like anything that you would say, hey, if you really want to learn more about AI and how it all works, like go check this thing out? Any resources like that that you could point us to?
It's definitely an interesting weekend to ask that question, right? With everything going on at Open or at Open AI and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I say normally that's the place to look, the source of truth, right? I think it's one of those things that everyone should go out there and do their own research on a little of everything that's out there. I recommend that no agency or no brand out there that's working with AI just choose one AI provider to rule them all. I think the various different providers out there have their different advantages of their language models and pieces like that. So I think it is a choose your flavor sort of industry out there, right? I do think that OpenAI is going to lead the industry from a very responsible position, which I think is going to be key in the next few years. As with AI, with crypto, with any craze in the last few years, you've always got the scammers and the crooks that come with these industries, right? So I think there'll be a lot of positive disruption of what is and is not AI over the next few years as they build out some standards and policies. But I think the best thing is just to get your hands on it, right? Go out and get the first edition of Chat GTP, get something lightweight like a Lavender to help you write emails, or Grammarly, or some of the other ones that are out there that just help you with managing your everyday task. And then once you get a hold of that and you can open up some time and see some solid success there, you start to think about your business units and how can you unlock time for your business units or unlock revenue with tasks and activities they could be performing if they weren't doing some things like that. I think some of the best agency leaders that I've seen was really driving early adoption of AI in their agencies or power users in their everyday, right? I'll get an email from their AI assistant, post a phone call with a recap, right? Or
Yeah.
I'll see that a task was assigned with superhuman or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I understand that this is a growth minded CEO that's unlocking this in their personal life. So this is why it's such a focus at the business unit level as well. But like I said, I think that's the best advice is just get your hands on it, see how it helps unlock you, and then don't be afraid of it. Learn from the younger generation that's using it. I've got a marketing assistant who's a senior in college right now that uses AI and technology in ways that I never would have used it, just because he's went through school a
Yeah.
lot different way and has learned how to do meetings and everything. Even what we're doing on Zoom right now wasn't normal 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
uh, just crazy advancements in technology over the last 3 years, but even more so in the last, call it 10, 11 months. So
No, that's for sure. It's great advice. I like it, and it's definitely actionable. And if anyone wants to reach out to you and say, "Hey, Corey, can you show me the platform, talk more about it," or maybe they want to share their particular use case and what they're struggling with, and
yeah,
how Opus might help, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
yeah, they can reach out on our website at opusmatch.ai, or they can reach out to me directly on my email at Corey at opusmatch.ai as well. We're a small team, so we get back to people relatively quick. Uh, yeah, so
Cool. And I'll get that right on page here and make sure the links are all there. I'll also link them to your LinkedIn because I know that's how you and I connected.
yep,
Uh, and for those listening, like I can attest, Corey is incredibly responsive. His communication is definitely concise and effective. So, which I appreciate being busy myself. But Corey, man, I appreciate having you on Staffing Monthly and just sharing your perspective and some of the cool things that you're doing over there at Opus Match. And I wish you a happy holiday season.
yeah, you too, Dan. Thanks for having us on, and best of luck finishing off the year strong.